I began this course wanting to explore immersive spaces. Immersion, by definition, suggests complete involvement in an activity or an interest. But to move this into the realm of a gallery or artistic viewing space follows ideas of the traditional white cube model, in which you're expected to forget about your geographical surroundings. Within a white cube, you are solely there to view the art and to view nothing but the art. So you don't pay attention to the invigilators or the light switches or the door frames. You pay attention to what is there and what is framed and what is on a plinth. This follows the idea of immersion because you become consumed with where you are and what the curator wants you to see. I don't necessarily know if I am totally into the idea of a white cube. I just don't think it's as interesting as it could be anymore. Gallery spaces are special because you enter a new world that has been produced for you in order to view work. It's been orchestrated by the curator and the artist. And I think that's what I mean by immersion. I don't think the term immersion is a get out of jail free card to fill a space with salon hung paintings from floor to ceiling. I mean, that might be cool and help, but it's not essential. You don't have to dive into a swimming pool and be engulfed by hundreds of artworks in order to be immersed. It just has to be the right kind of space. Good thing about doing it like this though, is I can sound like an idiot and nobody will know. Okay, exhibitions. Team labs, borderless. An entire building overtaken with projections and interactive lights, and they adjusted how the floor felt in places, and it was awe-inspiring. The rooms changed as you walked through, and they would react to you being there. There was a room in which you could do a colouring in, and then a minute later it would appear on the wall with your name written next to it. I mean, amazing for kids. Like, the coolest. This was in 2018, so I wasn't a child, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. This was my first exhibition in which I totally felt like I experienced immersion, where I felt like I wasn't being rushed from painting to painting in a stuffy gallery. I was there to enjoy it. More than I was there to look at the art, I was there to enjoy it and take a few selfies along the way. I think that's important, by the way. I think producing a space in the 21st century where people want to engage and want to take selfies and want to share it on Instagram, I think that's the way forward. I mean, more recent exhibitions that followed the same line of I wanted to be there and I was excited to be there was the Van Gogh Alive exhibition. This was a touring production, almost, in which you enter a room and you are greeted with large screens and pillars that projected the paintings on them. Now, the paintings were adjusted and sometimes they moved, and they played alongside a classical music score and were coupled with quotes from Van Gogh's sketchbook. Now, as an art student, yes, I appreciate Van Gogh. I'm not a crazed fan, but I was there and I was fully engulfed. I mean, my mum cried. She cries a lot, but not normally at art. Again, it was this idea of it didn't matter where in the world you were, it mattered where you were in that exact moment, in amongst these larger than life paintings and movements, and how the music changed how you reacted. There was also a sense of play. I mean, I was on the floor, sat opposite a family, and this baby was having the time of his life playing in the projection on the floor of a painting that he won't realise the significance of until he's like 16, maybe. We were sat in an appropriated theatre space. We were sat on the stage of a theatre. It didn't feel like that because you weren't paying attention to where you were. Immersive and cool. These images are from the 2019 Saatchi Gallery exhibition called Beyond the Road by a collective called Punch Drunk. And they're one of the only examples that I have ever experienced of an immersive exhibition in which it takes place within clearly a group show. There was clearly thought behind the way in which you would travel through the gallery space. As you walked through, the smoke and the lights would change and you would physically feel yourself adjust to your new surroundings. This was so influential to me as a practitioner, and it led me on to produce the first piece of curating that I can pinpoint myself doing. As part of a level 5 collaboration module, my first experience of properly curating a space. Surrounding ideas of not being able to sleep, we produced a space in which the mood was produced by the lights and the sound that was there. The pieces of work within the space were to be viewed under specific conditions. Specific conditions that directly enhanced the viewing experience and made it all come together as one cohesive piece, despite the fact that it was clearly a group exhibition. I have been thinking recently about whether it would be wise to change my use of the word immersion into engaging, or find another word, captivating, maybe, to try and avoid these ideas of purely digital filling the space, projections that go as far as what I can see. Again, they're really cool, but they're not necessarily what I want to look at. There's something so specific about being in a gallery space and seeing a physical artwork. Walter Benjamin talks about it in Artworks in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. And I mean, you see it in practice when crowds of people hoard around the Mona Lisa even though they could see it in higher resolution on their telephone. I want to create those experiences in which people are wanting to go somewhere to see something. A projection is fine, but maybe not what I'm after. For the paper curating project, we were tasked with producing a blue sky thinking exhibition. I thought, what if we took all of the sculptures that are placed everywhere around the world and put them in one place together? I figured then it would be producing the kind of like a gallery experience where you get all artworks and they have to interact with each other, and that completely changes how they look. It did then lead into question ideas around public art and the advantages and disadvantages of that. Public art is funded using public money, essentially, but it very often has little to no input from the public who is it. Therefore, placing the sculptures crashing into the houses of these people that have had no say in their placement or production is quite interesting. Could be quite interesting. I mean, it started off as like a fun, let's just have a go. I think that's what I've realised so far in this course, is that my approach to curating tends to stem from quite a satirical outlook. Tends to. We'll see if that continues. I don't know. But that's definitely where the paper curating started. I enjoyed making the model. I enjoy being able to visualise my ideas much more than just writing it down on a piece of paper. I think Hometown Glory responded quite well to my initial interest. It allowed for me to produce an environment in which it was totally consuming. People will walk down a street that they've walked down every day and suddenly be encapsulated by what was there, and they'd be taking pictures and paying attention to where they stood. Kind of like a gallery. Another area of interest for me from a curatorial standpoint is accessibility. I think that art should be available for everyone if they want it, and there shouldn't be silly implications such as too many steps, or you can't get a wheelchair through, or I don't know, anything. I appreciate it's not always possible, but I want to produce spaces that are accessible to as many people as is possible. Why would I discriminate against people being able to view artwork? Why would I discriminate against people wanting to be part of culture? It seems silly to me. I was reading a book called Culture is Bad for You, and it discussed the cultural class systems that are embedded in things like the theatre and art galleries, all the way down to the cinema. I mean, there is a clear divide in class systems between what culture they consume and what culture they take part in. It was wild to me that a statistic provided by this book stated that only 17% of adults over the age of 16 draw in their free time. Draw or paint or whatever, colour in, I don't know. But 17% of people partake in the most simplest of art form. 17%. And if you think, we're all over 16. We're part of that 17%. How many more people are there? I struggle with conversations around class and equality because I'm very much aware that I am white, middle class. You know, I haven't had the same struggles as some peers. And therefore, when discussions around who should be working and who should be curating in the arts, I find it hard to validate my presence in the world when talking about equality, because there would be much more valuable voices around. I think I need to work on that and use my privilege, if you like, to provide a pedestal. And I think that's something that a curator can do. I think a curator is a megaphone, if you like, for artists' voices, and that is definitely something that I am mindful of and I want to pursue. I found Claire Bishop's work to be an interesting read. I mean, she referenced the Battle of Orgrave and the idea that putting the video of that within the gallery space is completely irrelevant. It alienates the very people it was for, because those involved in the event that the work is about are not those that would be visiting a white cube elitist gallery. That's a consideration that curators have to make. Is a gallery the right space for an artwork? I mean, at no point do I ever want to limit myself to a white cube in a city gallery, because it might not be the best. One day a barn might be perfect, or a school. I think it's a case of being able to adjust my practice day by day, and artwork by artwork and project by project. Obviously I have these interests of immersion and inclusivity, accessibility, but it might not always be right. I could easily turn every artwork that I receive into a moving projection, but whether or not that devalues the artwork is a consideration that I would have to make, and therefore perhaps an immersive space won't be the best. Again, brings into question my use of the word immersion and the assumptions that come along with that, but we'll see. Oh dear. Through research, I found myself getting frustrated. I mean, immersive exhibitions appearing in Google searches relied entirely on digital projections and installation artists. This isn't a bad thing by any means, but it does make me question where the line between installation artist and curator kind of blur. I want to include artists. I want to put artworks next to each other that would never be next to each other without my intervention. And to do that, I don't necessarily see myself as an installation artist, but a curator. I think it's a fine line to walk, especially in immersive spaces. We shall see. I don't know. It's so hard when researching to find curators. It's obviously not hard to find curators. To find articles written about exhibitions that specifically reference the curation. They don't really exist. I'm sure they do, but I can't find them. And I've tried. To conquer this, my current project is doing a series of interviews with curators. Video interviews, much like this. Probably better. try harder, that allow them to talk about their practice and how they conquer things such as accessibility and how they produce engaging spaces and how they view the gallery world as it is now. The importance of gallery spaces in a society in which the government is cutting funding day by day. We'll see how they go, but I think it will be a good log of curator voices that are hard to find, really hard to find. Okay, I think I've run out of things to say. How do you end these things? Thank you. Don't know where I was going with that. That's fine. We'll move on.